the thing about moving abroad and uprooting yourself is that it's going to be now a sudden and constant renegotiation and rebuilding of what makes you you, because what made you you, you've now left behind. Alright, hi everyone, or whoever's watching this video, maybe no one, but anyway, I wanted to make this video anyhow because I've been sitting on these feelings for exactly 4 months now, since I arrived in Sweden on November 16 at 6 in the morning at Stockholm Arlanda Airport. So I just wanted to share the struggles that you can't really prepare for, or even if you did prepare, no one can really fully prepare for. So obviously moving abroad is going to be different for everybody. Some of you might have a seamless transition, but so my background is I moved abroad for love as a brown woman who looks Chinese in the time of the coronavirus. Yeah, but seriously, I moved abroad for love as a brown woman who moved from a developing country to a developed country where English is not the primary language. And specifically, I moved to a relatively small city. It's one of the biggest cities in Sweden, but I moved from a city of 3 million to a city of now 100 something thousand people, like 105,000 or something like that. So that's the background, and if it matters, I still have remote jobs, but I don't have a full-time job here. I don't have a job here at all. I'm going to be talking about the struggles that come with some or all of these things, and I could be talking to no one right now, but my hope is that me talking candidly about these struggles might help somebody at least brace for the impact of everything, especially the profoundness of the loneliness and the isolation that you will maybe feel if we share the same like background. So like I said, I wanted this to be a candid conversation. I have no script. I just have some talking points. Forgive me if you wanted like a listicle type of thing and you want it to be straightforward and like simple. But the thing is, moving abroad, uprooting yourself, leaving behind all your loved ones, it's not simple. And I can't give you like punchlines or whatever to help you through it. And I also wanted a place to be able to kind of unload all of these things in hopes that somebody can identify with any or all of these feelings, and it can help you prepare for the worst. I guess let's start with the simplest and most obvious thing. I moved to Sweden from the Philippines, and I guess the most obvious difference is the climate, and everybody knows that. And nothing, you can prepare for the cold, but nothing prepares you for the darkness. Like when I got here in November, every single person I met told me, oh my god, it's such a dark November. It's not usually like this. Don't worry, it's not gonna be like this all the time. Don't run away. It's just a strange time of year. Weather's weird. Anyway, true enough, in the news, they did say that it was the darkest November in like recent memory. In some cases, for like in 25 years, it was the darkest November in some places. And yeah, so I prepared for the cold, and I had like 8+ jackets with me, but it was so dark. Like it was dark from 4 p.m. to like 8:15 in the morning. I knew because I sat in this same chair every damn day waiting for the sun to rise. I mean, the sun to rise. and it was always like this. The weather it's overcast, and I took vitamin D, didn't help. And also, it's dark outside. The street lights aren't like, they don't have a lot of street lights, and even then it's usually like not so bright. And inside, I don't know when they agreed, like the whole country just agreed to not have light bulbs brighter than 2700 Kelvin. It's like candlelight. And like, I don't know why this whole country seems to have agreed that it's dark outside, dark inside, and also dark inside. Like, you can't find light bulbs brighter than 2700 Kelvin easily. Like, I looked on Amazon, Germany, I couldn't even find any. And yeah, you can find some, but they're a specific size that are usually not for lamps that are common in homes. They're usually like bigger fixtures. And yeah, so Swedes, what up? Anyway, my Swedish significant other says that, I mean, you know, in your house is supposed to be a relaxing place, blah blah blah. But like, dude, it's dark everywhere. And like, and the funny thing is, it seems like so I'm Asian obviously, and I came from the Philippines, from a tropical country, and he's always been here in Sweden. I mean, he's Swedish, and I realized that I have a higher like tolerance for looking into brightness than he does, and he's better at night when it's dark. He sees better in the dark, and I see better in the brightness. Like, he has to wear shades, and I can look directly into the overcast sun and not like flinch. And he's like, don't look at it, don't look at it. Yeah, but also, now that I've told you this, you can probably mentally and emotionally prepare for the darkness. You can bring your own bulbs, you can bring your own sun lamp, you can bring a shit ton of vitamin D and fish oil or whatever, but your skin you cannot control. I don't know about you. It took me several years to kind of like research and put together a skin care routine that I enjoyed and benefited from and wasn't too expensive, blah blah blah. Anyway, so long story short, I was very happy and proud of the way I took care of myself, specifically my skin. I grew up, I got my period early, so I had a lot of like acne and stuff. So being 29 and having reached like the peak of like good skin was a big deal for me. And so when I got here, my skin became raw and painful, and it peeled, and it was painful to the touch. Even water hurt it. And you don't know how your skin is going to react. I honestly thought it was my lips that were going to chap and break like it did when I studied in Germany in the winter 2015. And what happened then was that it broke, and it took like almost 3 months to heal. But this time, so I was so ready for my lips to be like the same thing. But this time it was my face, like the whole of it, almost like mostly this part. So and I was irrationally, inconsolably sad about it. And you know what the thing is? The thing about moving abroad is that the thing about moving abroad and uprooting yourself is that it's going to be now a sudden and constant renegotiation and rebuilding of what makes you you, because what made you you, you've now left behind. And it sounds so stupid that my skin, my good skin, is so strongly attached to who I've made myself to be. But like, look, I don't think it was unreasonable that I was so inconsolably sad about my ugly, peeling, painful face. It's just, you know, you've left everything behind, and the only thing that still made me myself was my physical, mortal shell. You know, like the state of my skin, my strength, my fitness, and everything. And when I got here, I lost all of that. And like, I stopped going to yoga because I didn't have a studio anymore, and I didn't have my yoga teacher community and everything. And my skin was the last like bastion of sanity that I had left. And then I didn't have it anymore. So I don't think it was unreasonable, although, looking back, I would have packed on more occlusive, is that what you call it? Occlusive, like moisturizers early on. So just if you're wondering, if you're moving to a similarly harshly cold country, only CeraVe has helped. Like, it helped my skin in a matter of 2 days. Like, it stopped peeling, it stopped hurting when everything hurt prior to that. So I now use CeraVe, like the extra dry skin cream. I'll put a picture here somewhere. Yeah, and then I also use the lotion variant for my body. Yeah, so also my lips did peel. They didn't crack though. But in my months of experience with winter, from tropical to winter climate, I find that the most helpful product in protecting my lips has always been Vaseline. Like, it gets a bad rap for being like petroleum based, whatever. I'm not trying to argue anything here about like the ethics of these products, but I'm just saying Vaseline helped, and it's the only thing that helps. Like, I've tried everything. I've tried like Carmex, I've tried like all kinds of lip balms, like I've tried them all. It's really Vaseline that gets you there. Another small but impactful thing is that you get here and you're reunited with your significant other or your loved one, depends why you're moving, and it feels great for the first few days and or weeks, depends on your disposition. But then, eventually you're going to seek comfort, and you realize you don't have the things and the places and the people that used to comfort you anymore. And I mean, leaving your loved ones behind, your community, your family, your friends, that's a given when you move countries. But you'll slowly realize that the things that back home you would turn to, things or habits or places that really gave you comfort and helped you cope with life's like struggles or negative emotions and stuff like that. And you don't have it anymore. You realize that you can no longer find the moisturizer that you love, the serum, your favorite kind of ice cream, you can't find milk tea anywhere, or fried chicken. My biggest issue is fried chicken. In the Philippines, there's like KFC, fast food places, and convenience stores everywhere, and all of them pretty much have fried chicken. And that was the biggest thing for me, actually. It's so silly, but like, you can't, you feel sad and you kind of have a hankering for ramen, and you just leave your apartment, and in 10 minutes you're like in a ramen place, or you can order it on Food Panda in like 20 minutes. You have it there, and and then, like I said, it's now a renegotiation. You'll have to build and find new things that bring you a similar comfort and like help you cope with being alive. And I don't think there's a single person in the world that doesn't have anything that helps them feel better, like, even if it's like a manicure, or in my case a massage. Like, there's no massage place here. It's certainly none for like €6 for an hour, and it's not common here. It's you usually have to go to like a chiropractor, an orthopedic, whatever, to get a massage here, and it's not gonna be the same. And yeah, so I personally miss my tricycle driver, KFC, and my masseuse. If I could bring my masseuse over here and employ her, I would. And yeah, and also I miss my yoga studio probably the most. And there are yoga studios all over the world, but it's not the same. It's different when you enter a place and they recognize you and they're glad you're there and you look the same. All these faces look like you. You understand each other all the time. You're not constantly the only brown person in the room. Yeah. Oh, my puppy's crying. Wait. So yeah, that's a small thing, but it's a big thing if you need that immediate like comfort. It's also like the most challenging, I think, is finding the products that will suit your like skin in now a different kind of weather. So yeah. Moving on to heavier stuff now. Nothing prepared me for how profound the isolation is. You're in this completely new place, you don't understand anything, you don't know anyone, you are at home because you don't have a job, you don't have any friends, you don't want to go out because the weather is terrible, it's wet and cold and dark, and you know, and you just do the same things day in and day out, and it's a beautiful view. You watch the birds all day, you watch the same people pass by, you start to recognize them by their dogs or by their hat or by the way they walk, and it's like you're living in a bubble or like a cage or a fish tank. And it's not obvious like when I say it now, but the isolation can really make you lose yourself, and you have to be prepared for it, and you have to be proactive in making sure that you don't stay isolated. Thing with the isolation is once you get enough of it, it's just easier to stay isolated than to put yourself out there, especially if you're in a country where you are a complete outsider, like language wise, culture wise, physical wise, like also it doesn't help that I look very Chinese in the time of the coronavirus, so I can't even apply for a yoga teacher job now anymore. So I myself have tried downloading Bumble for the BFF function, and downloading like these apps that have like that capture events in your area. But in this Timbuktu of a town of 100,000 people, there was a grand total of 2 people who lived within 30 kilometers of me, and that was still pretty far. And all the groups are like for developers and software engineers and whatever, because I'm in a tech like city, and the groups on that app were like Java developers, C++ developers, Android developers. I'm like, the only thing I'm developing is depression, and that's it. So I'm actually quite grateful and relieved that we are moving to Stockholm in May, and there are more Filipinos there who are like professionals in my age, and maybe I would also have a better chance of finding employment. And if you're moving countries and you don't have a job there, or friends, or an existing community, and they don't speak a language you know fully, and you are not of their race, be prepared to feel really isolated, especially if you are not much of an extrovert, outgoing social type. And even then, I mean, even extroverts don't like this weather. So yeah. And speaking, as we've already touched on jobs, if you're moving to a developed country, at least I would know about Sweden, but I don't know about others. Maybe it will be easier if you move to like English speaking countries like Australia, the US, the UK, But in Sweden, it has been so hard to find a job, and this will especially be the case if you teach like the arts without any kind of certification, or you're not like an engineer or in the sciences or in tech. It's going to be really difficult. So my background, I've always been in communications, and that's already a big problem to begin with, because I did communications in English, and obviously they speak Swedish here, and I used to work in communications but in the development and environmental sector. You have to know that your job at home doesn't necessarily translate to the country you're moving to. Like, the environment sector and development sector of Sweden is completely different from that of the Philippines and other developing countries. Like, in Sweden, the kind of environmentalists they're looking for, like engineers or like new, like clean energy engineers or experts and stuff like that, or sustainability in transport, blah blah. They don't need many people in like the grassroots aspect like I used to work in, or in aid projects, because like they don't have aid projects here because the aid comes from them. They're not like the beneficiaries like the Philippines and other developing countries. So also if you're in the arts, like you're a visual artist or a musician or something. I've met a girl in my Swedish for Immigrants class. She moved here as a developer, but her husband used to be a drum teacher back home. The thing is, he was self-taught, so he can't teach in Sweden because Sweden doesn't allow you to teach anything if you're not certified. So prepare for that. It's been very difficult for me to find a job because other than my niche work experience, like in development, environment, and communications in English, I also don't know Swedish, and it just, the work and experience I had just doesn't really translate to the needs of this country. So you have to be prepared for that. And because I knew that already, I took yoga teacher training right before I left, because at least yoga teacher training has like certification. And I thought, like, rich people, rich countries like yoga. So I figured, yeah, but then, it's a coronavirus now, and we'll see how that turns out. And even medical professionals will have a hard time working here because look, there's so many refugees like from Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, or whatever, where they were doctors and they lived such good lives. They were well off and respected, highly regarded by their community and everything. And then they end up being cab drivers here because their credentials don't translate. So be prepared for that. Like, it's really gut wrenching and like really a severe blow to the ego when you are unable to find a source of income, even with so much experience, even if you are so qualified. You just will have a difficult time finding a job unless you are like a mechanic, an electrician, a developer, fluent in Swedish, and certified in your field, and that certification is translatable to another country. So meaning it includes medicine and law. So yeah. So moving on to the next point. Given all of that, you of course end up wondering. So you're looking for a job every day and studying Swedish every day, and I personally, I don't know about those who have been in the same situation or will be in the same situation, but I find myself questioning from time to time if I'll ever be good enough to not be an outsider anymore. And all human beings want to feel included, want to feel like they belong, want to feel like they've integrated and people look at them the same way and equally like everyone else. And because of all these hurdles and conditions, you'll sometimes or often wonder if you'll ever be enough, and that wondering if you'll ever be enough is really can be really damaging to your like self-esteem, your idea of your worth and your identity, because your identity used to be hinged on your job, your community, your friends, your abilities, your achievements, your looks, your so many things, and that's the reality of it. And here suddenly you are frequently made to feel that you're not good enough. So prepare for that. Also, with the language barrier, another thing is that you'll not being able to advocate for yourself is the most frustrating thing. Like having to rely on someone else. If that person is super reliable and like, always willing and everything, great. But still, not being able to advocate for yourself, not having enough words, vocab, Swedish, whatever, is so frustrating. And moving on to the next point, you can really end up resenting your partner for a lot of things, and even if you were super prepared to move and you are doing it for both of you, not just them, and you have accepted that you're going to be the one to move, sometimes the isolation, frustration, loneliness, desperation is just so much that it's inevitable that you will at least feel a little bit of resentment towards them, especially if they don't know how to support you fully and properly. So if you're going to be in this situation, it's important more than ever to communicate openly, frequently, and honestly. Because if you don't, the resentment is just going to build and it's going to eat up. It's going to eat up your relationship, and then you're just going to move back home and have to, and some people may choose to move back home because all the struggle isn't worth it, and I've heard a lot of stories about that, and that's fine. But if you if you intend to stay and want to like push and you want to continue and everything, communication is key. Ask to be supported. Tell him how you would like to be supported, and know that it's so normal to feel little regret, little resentment, but also know that that's normal, but also you shouldn't act on it because it's not their fault that you also agreed to move to wherever. I don't know what else I have to say about that. Personally, I sometimes so in my case, it's been so hard to find a job. It's been hard to make friends because we're living in the middle of nowhere, and the winter isn't really the best time to make friends. And now we have a puppy, so I'm home more than ever because he needs like 24/7 attention and care at this age. And I find myself like really envying like how normal a life Sebastian has, and I resent it a little bit. But of course, more than that, I'm happy for him. But sometimes I feel like, why can't I just have a normal life already? Like, I just want a normal life. I just want a normal job. I don't have to be important. I can sell secondhand stuff. I don't need a big deal job. I just want a job, friends, and a normal life. And And I don't have that, and I won't have that for a while, and I don't know how long I won't have that. And that's just something you have to expect. I didn't expect it would take so long to rebuild this new life, but I mean, what do you expect? It's gonna take years. But you know, I'm not the most patient person, really. So he's sleeping on my foot now, so I can't get up. I really need to pee. If I could only say one thing to anyone who's moving to another country under the same circumstances or some of the circumstances that I did, it's that be prepared to feel invisible. And this was the most heartbreaking and difficult thing of all about moving here. Harry? Where's this dog? Yeah, it's the most heartbreaking and difficult thing about doing this. It's that you're going to be invisible, and while that's liberating when you're traveling, like you are no one and no one expects anything of you. When you're doing this long term, like, you know, how can I say? Back home, you walk out the door and you are somebody's friend, somebody's sister, somebody's child, somebody's yoga classmate, somebody's colleague, somebody's tricycle passenger, somebody's, you know, and you are all these things to all these people, and you are all these things to yourself. And then suddenly you move to a new country where you know like one person and their family. Suddenly you are nobody but a significant other. And also in my case, I am somebody's significant other, but also I am a foreigner, an outsider, a Chinese looking person in the time of the coronavirus. I am a woman and a brown woman with a white man. And that is all you are when you start. And that's like, you know, you walk out there and instead of Barry, you know, and you walk out there and you're all these things to all these people back home, and then suddenly you leave the house now and you're just an outsider, a woman, a Chinese looking person, an immigrant, a foreigner, somebody who's different, somebody who doesn't belong, and all these identities and labels you imbibe and you live with for a really long time until you can build more of your life into what you would like it to be, until you gain more of the labels that you want to identify yourself with. But when you get to a new country where you know you don't have community or belonging, you have to accept that you will be invisible, and that is fucking depressing. Like, really, like I said, all of humanity just want to be important and loved and to belong and to be accepted. And when you get to a new country where you're like not white, the non-belonging and the difference you have compared to the natives here is so stark, and you clearly do not belong. And plus the language, you know, and that's, if there's only one thing you have to know when you're going to move to another country for love, or just move to another country where, you know, as a brown person, as a woman or whatever, that's, if there's only one thing I could tell you, that would be it. Be prepared to feel invisible, and that's gonna suck. And I guess finally, that loneliness, the profound loneliness that you're gonna feel can make you spiral. Like, lonely people can do terrible things. And people who don't feel like they belong or they're not accepted can do terrible things. So you have to know that the loneliness can make you spiral. It can make you say things, wouldn't have said otherwise. It can make you feel things you wouldn't have otherwise. Personally, I hated getting a puppy at this stage in my life because he eats up all of my time, and while some people will benefit from that, I just processed it as I spent all my time taking care of Sebastian and looking for a job, trying to be worthy of this country, and now I have another thing to take care of, and I can't even take care of myself, and I just wasn't ready for him. So I guess if there's another thing I have to tell you, my advice is don't get a pet if you haven't yet established your life. But I guess it depends on your disposition. Okay? I mean, I wouldn't give him back. It's just, maybe I would have chosen, maybe I should have gotten a pet when like I have a job and, you know, a little bit of foothold on this new life. So I guess that's it. Darkness, things that give you comfort are no longer. You'll feel invisible. It's gonna be lonely and isolating. It's gonna be so hard to find a job. But do I regret it? Would I move back home? No, not yet anyway. I mean, I know it takes years to build a life, even in a place, in the place you were born, and that's just how it is. But I sure as hell am so impatient. And man, I just want friends and a job. I want my own money. I mean, who doesn't want financial independence? Huh? I mean, not you, certainly. You're well fed. You get to potty 10 times a day. I have to carry you down the stairs. Ew. Yuck, you ate your poop this morning. Ew. Bye.